Okay, we are live on YouTube right now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Wes McNeese. I'm Executive Director for Diversity Initiatives, Southern Illinois University. And this evening's conversation of understanding is all about international students, their challenges and opportunities. This will be a 2-hour virtual discussion, and it's sponsored by the SIU System President's Office and the System's Diversity Advisory Council. By the way, would you please subscribe to our SIU System YouTube channel by clicking the red subscribe button and then the notification bell icon so you will be notified when our next video is uploaded to our website. This evening, we have brought together a group of well-informed members of the SIU community to discuss tonight's topic. Dr. Ramesh Noapani, Associate Director, Study Abroad Programs, SIU Carbondale, will moderate this discussion. Liz Jarnigan, Director of Athletics, SIU Carbondale, will monitor questions and comments. And Carol Walker is our Zoom coordinator. Please stay until the very end because Dr. Dan Mahoney, the SIU System President, will be making closing remarks. Dr. Noapani, would you please begin?
Thank you, Dr. McNeese, and thank you, President Dan Mahoney. I'm Ramesh Noapani, Associate Director for Study Abroad Program at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. And I would like to thank SIU System President's Office and SIU System Diversity Advisory Council for providing a platform for the campus communities to join in on this conversation. It is a great opportunity to be a moderator for today's conversation of understanding, in which our topic for today is international student challenges and opportunities. And I would also like to thank all the panelists for providing their valuable time and being here. So before starting the panel, I would like to thank to Carol Walker for the technical support of this live stream, and also to Liz Jarnigan, who is going to serve as a question monitor. So for today's panel, we have administrators from all 3 campuses of SIU System who works directly and indirectly with international students. Along with them, we have international students from all campuses and President Dan Mohani, who will be giving a closing statement. During the panel, panelists will provide a brief overview about the vision and mission of their respective department, correlation to international students, and all the audience can participate in the panel by entering their comments in the YouTube live stream chat box. And please note that this session is being recorded and live streamed in YouTube. It will be posted on the website of SIU Systems Strategic Planning, so those who are unable to participate can revisit or share the link from the website. So coming to the topic in regards to the international students' challenges and opportunities. So recently, IIE, Institute of International Education, had revealed the data stating that 1 million international students have attended the US higher education system in the academic year 2019 and 2020. And American Council on Education has predicted 25% decline of international students for fall 2020 due to the COVID. And this decline has ongoing from previous years. So despite the decline in the number of international students in the United States, this group still represents 5.5% of all students in US higher education system. And with the declining number of international students and the COVID-19, there are a lot of challenges as well as opportunities that international students are facing. And today, I am excited to be a moderator in this panel because I was myself an international student who came to the United States for higher education 13 years back from Nepal. And I have experienced all sorts of challenges as an international student, but I have gained opportunities and broadened my knowledge during my career as an international student and staff member in the US higher education system. So international students leave their family member back home and they attend the US higher education system. And they have to adjust to a new culture and environment along with their studies. So with this, I would like to introduce Dr. Andrew Carver, Executive Director for Center for International Education at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. So Dr. Carver, as a Senior International Officer at SIUC, could you please share the mission and vision of Center for International Education and challenges that you see that international student faces? Dr. Carver?
Certainly, and thank you, Dr. Neopani, and thanks to the panel and all who are attending today. I want to start off by saying how honored and humbled I am to be part of this important discussion. SIU is truly a global institution, and all three campuses have a notable global reach. SIU Carbondale has long been a leader in international education among all US universities. Our first degree-seeking student came to campus in the 1940s. He was from Iraq. And today we host nearly 1,000 international students and scholars. And we're particularly known for the diversity of our international students. Year after year, we host students from about 100 countries. And those top countries are, let me remember here, China, Saudi Arabia, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Iran, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and Canada. Those round out our top 10. We have had declines in enrollment due to COVID, and the enrollment decline did start even before that, probably attributable to a lot of competition in higher ed and some difficulty in some students coming to the United States to study. And I said earlier, I was honored and humbled to be here today. And I really meant it. I'm honored to represent the staff of the Center for International Education, many of whom I relied on so much during my over 20 years of being a faculty member in the classroom. The Center for International helped me recruit and mentor students, international graduate students. They help me start my study abroad programs. They help me with my research, which you might see behind me, some references to wild animals and wildlife. I researched global biodiversity conservation, and they were instrumental in helping me connect with universities around the world. And I'm humbled because I've learned from and I've been inspired by international students really since I was a college student myself. International students contribute so much to the campus environment. And let's just take my case as an example. I was a domestic student, but many of my classmates were international students. I studied abroad as an undergraduate student. Later, I brainstormed theories and research ideas and shared bench space, laboratory space with international students. And those experiences shaped me. They opened my mind to new ideas and customs, and they really opened up career paths that I hadn't even dreamed of before. So when I think of my job and the mission of SIU Center for International Education, I immediately think of those experiences and ensuring that those experiences are available to all SIU students, domestic and international alike, and that they're celebrated. And speaking of celebrations, we have two big celebrations on campus each year. One is International Education Week. It's sponsored by the US State Department and the US Department of Education. And we have our own international festival here, which is really a student-driven festival and celebration. But it's not that simple. International students, yes, they share a lot of those same challenges of domestic students. And it's tough for anyone to get to college and to stay in college to complete your degree, especially during this global pandemic. Family resources stretched so thin. But international students have many more challenges that we often forget or we can't even imagine. Adjusting to a new language or new accents, new culture, new educational system, classroom etiquette, new climate. Think about last week and the weather and how tough it is to adjust for someone coming from an equatorial lowland region. So these are some of the reasons why it's critical for our international center to support the unique needs of international students. We have international student advisors, a comprehensive international orientation during the week before classes. You know, one of those topics, policing and safety. It's one of the topics we hit in our orientation, and it's something domestic students may not realize, that police agencies are so different in every different country. So many countries, if you're pulled over, if you want to stay out of trouble, if you want to show respect to the police officer, you get out of your car and approach the police officer. Well, we know that is a big matter of safety here in the US. So we invite our Department of Public Safety officers to come present to the students, to present their expectations. And then conversely, we have periodic training sessions for our Department of Public Safety. So we can orient them that if an international student gets out of their car first, you know, hold on, this may not be a threatening situation. This is a cultural practice. So it even gets more complicated. International students, they have to get to campus first. They can't just hop on a plane. SIU must issue federal immigration documents first. Students must then pass a visa interview at a US consulate, either in their country or they might travel to another country. And they have to keep up with complex and changing regulations over the course of their studies so that they maintain their visa status. You know, it's high stakes. Unlike domestic students, if you drop 1 credit hour, perhaps that might be a visa, you might lose your visa status, and you might have to leave the country really not knowing if you will be able to return. So we have immigration specialists on staff here at the Center for International Education to assist students and to host periodic workshops, especially when some major change happens. So I feel like I've just scratched the surface, Dr. Neopani, on your question, but hopefully everyone at least has a sense of the work of the Center for International Education and its supporting role.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Carver, for providing that all the key points that international students faces the challenges. You know, I especially point out some important points regarding cultural shock or languages, adjustment with languages, and adjustment in the education system, in the classes, you know, because they come from a different higher education system, and when they come to US, it's totally different for them. So it will take some time for them to get adjusted with those environment too. And when you talk about the cultural shocks, I personally can relate myself, you know, with the cultural shock. I'm from Nepal, and you know, majority of the Nepalese people are Hindu, and we pray cow as a god. So first time when I came to US as an undergraduate student, I was working in a cafeteria. I got hired in a cafeteria where I have to make a burger and I have to toss the beef every day. You know, and I felt really, it was really hard time for me to toss the beef every time when I worked there. So that was one of the biggest challenges that I faced during my undergrad, being as an international student. Similarly, there are other challenges, you know, that international students face when they are in US. So moving along with that, I would like to introduce another graduate student from SIUE Carbondale, who is doing his civil engineering program, who is doing his graduate school in civil engineering, and he's from Sudan, and his name is Busra Al-Nossi. Busra?
Hello, can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes, Busra.
Yes, allow me to begin by expressing my gratitude for this opportunity to voice over my experience. Let me begin a while before even getting here, because it actually took some effort. It wasn't easy. After graduating from my undergrad university back in Khartoum and working for 2 years split between an academic and an industry-based postings, I knew I wanted to further pursue academia. So it felt natural to do a master's degree abroad. This seemingly is a daunting mission to accomplish at the beginning. I set into preparing needed requirements, taking IELTS, taking GRE, and applying. And I applied to many places, including multiple schools in Europe and Canada. But SIU actually was my first choice due to a number of reasons. My brother was already here doing his PhD, and he came here because a very close family member or actually family friend was a faculty member here at some point in SIUC. And even to further the case for SIU, I had already met Dr. Carver in Sudan when he was there to make some institutional agreements with Sudanese universities. So I had already heard many good things about SIU. After a lot of documents and applying and getting replies for my applications, I got admitted, thankfully. I applied for a visa, which is another conundrum. I got my visa. I was coming, yay. And after coming here, it took a while for the shock to settle in. It is a little unnerving to experience some place like downtown Chicago coming all the way from Sudan, especially for an engineer and especially for a civil engineer. As I got settled into Carbondale and gotten used to the new place of living, I sobered up and the drawback sort of balanced out the general mood. Which is good, so I can focus on my work. So now, after about a year and a half, almost 2 years, I believe that the most challenging thing that international students face is that they have ambitions to fulfill at a place other than home. This is true to some more than others. Coming a long distance from an underdeveloped country, I find myself torn between two worlds at the moment. I am here and very much used to the well-defined, comfortable lifestyle of Carbondale, which is much more comfortable than Sudan, of course. But at the same time, a good part of my spirit is many miles away. I can escape home, and I hope that is ultimately a good thing in general. And to understand why, I should mention that the social fabric where I come from in general, and my family and friends particularly, build on very close social relations. So there is a feeling of belonging and togetherness that is always present, and that is, of course, due to a lifelong familiarity of the place. Anyhow, needless to say, I miss home. I miss home frequently and with passion, even at a subconscious level. In a good part of my dreams, I'm either back home or shopping for gifts because I'm actually going there for a vacation or a holiday. I dream of buying my dad some Johnny Mitchell CDs. He's a big fan, or getting my mother some nice shoes or so before waking up and actually realizing that I'm here at Carbondale. There are some particularly difficult periods, like when your parents are sick and you're unable to be with them. And I had to deal with that firsthand due to COVID-19, as my parents actually caught the virus. I just had to man up and take the support I got, which was plenty, until luckily they turned the corner and regained their health. It is fair to say that the duality of existence between any two places may cause some distress sometimes, but it is not all lonesomeness and longing. The fact that I am here and doing something valuable in my life is very nice, particularly when it is articulated into tangible results. There are these beautiful moments when I can showcase my competence and share my small achievements with my family and far loved one. I made it a habit to share my good results with my family. Each and every test, each and every end of semester examination results. This is always nice. Regarding mundane daily life, SIU spares no effort in making our lives as international students easier. There are good activities to do around campus. That was especially true before the pandemic hit. And there is still a presence of good community. Everyone is really nice. I have wonderful interactions with faculty, staff, and students, um, and even members of the Carbondale community. All the basics are covered very well. The health center is excellent. I can vouch for that personally. The library and rec are great, and we find in the Center for International Education a home away from home. Um, any student can really feel that he is taken care of, and the level of sensitivity is really sublime and admirable, and I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Busra. And those words, home away from home, that is a big word, for all the international students, because they leave their home, as I have mentioned before, they leave their home and are in a different culture and different environment, and they have to go to school here, have to adjust with the classes, have to adjust with all the education system, and also with the grading system too. So those are some other challenges, and definitely, as Busra has mentioned, there is no activities due to COVID-19, but there used to be a lot of activities, but still there are some activities as Dr. Carver has mentioned before about the international festival that is upcoming, which is going to be mostly in virtual, and also a flag parade, something going on in SIUC. So moving on with that, let's hear about another student from SIUC, Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. Her name is Scarlett Rodriguez, and she is a Fulbright scholar and also a graduate student in communication study. And also she is only the one student from Dominican Republic. Scarlett.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Ramesh, and thank you, Bashra, for sharing your personal experiences as an international student. Before starting, I would like to say that I'm very honored to be here today speaking about a very important topic. And I would like to thank President Mahoney, Dr. McNeese, and all the academic authorities, faculty, and students involved for providing this space and for their dedication to diversity on our campuses. Like Ramesh said, my name is Scarlett Rodriguez. I am a Fulbright scholar and I'm the Vice President of the International Student Council in SIUC, which is dedicated to serving and bringing together our diverse international student body. Also, like he said, I am the only representative of the Dominican Republic currently on campus. Since 2016, I have studied abroad in 2 different countries, and I have met people from more than 60 different countries. And I realized that meeting and interacting with diverse people helped me learn a lot about the world, but also, and most importantly, about myself. That's why I'm excited to share today some of my experiences and thoughts, and also the ones from other international students who shared their visions to me so I could share that with the audience today. First, it is not possible to talk about international students without mentioning the Center for International Education. I believe that SIU has been doing a great job in building its relationship with international students. CIE has an important presence on campus, and international students identify it and know what it is for. A lot of us know the collaborators very well, Ramesh, Elaine, and Dr. Carver, of course. And I think it would be very good to guarantee that this center remains in force and to continue to strengthen it. I remember that when I first arrived in Carbondale, I made my very first friends during the CIE induction. And many students agree that CIE does a very good job supporting them to adjust since the very first days. On the other hand, some students emphasize that there is a great need to receive mentorship and support for their future plans to enter the market after finishing their studies. A long-term plan is suggested both for undergraduate and graduate students so that they know what the next steps are and how to prepare for the labor market, which can be very competitive and restrictive. Many times, these students do not have enough information or resources to secure opportunities and therefore are at disadvantage. In my case, I have received a lot of support from the Department of Communication Studies and my academic advisor. But for instance, other students don't even know that they have advisors. But in my case, the department, I've seen that it's very oriented in student success. And I'm very surprised and pleased with the attention I have received. Because of the support of my advisor, I had the opportunity to attend conferences, participate in an internship, and work as a graduate teaching assistant. I really wish these opportunities were available for my international peers from all departments and fields. Another campus opportunity pointed out by international students is transportation. It's amazing that current students often pick up new students from the airport and help get them settled in Carbondale. Only us international students can comprehend how it feels to arrive to O'Hare with no American dollars, no cell phone, and still having left a long journey to Carbondale. Having better transportation facilities around and outside of campus would be a great relief for students. I would also like to emphasize that being an international student is not just a category or a label. As you know, we all come from different backgrounds. We have our personal experiences and stories, and we have specific individual needs. We often forget that certain groups struggle more than others to adapt. An Arabic student once told me that I, among other international students, was privileged. When I asked him why, he said, "Well, you have a scholarship. You went to a private school where you learned 2 languages, and that my home country was only 5 hours away on airplane. Dominican Republic is very close. It's in the same continent, of course, and it's one-way ticket from Chicago to Santo Domingo. I had never thought about it like that before, and I felt like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't complain at all. I have met students who moved to Carbondale speaking no English at all, and that learned just in 1 year. And I've also met students who haven't seen their families in the last 5 years because home is too far and they can't afford traveling back. I'm sure that SIU is full of courageous international students, and I'm sure that they see very positively that we're having this conversation today, especially after an unprecedented and rough year like 2020 that has caused a lot of anxiety and uncertainty for the international community. SIU has the challenge of keep building a safe and understanding place for the ones who are trying to make a new home outside of home. I applaud that these conversations keep taking place. And on behalf of the International Student Council, I offer myself to order to continue expanding conversation in favor of our diverse community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scarlett. That was really insightful, and thank you for sharing your experience and providing a challenges and opportunities that international students are facing currently. You know, and Scarlett, we appreciate all your hard work that you do to organize different kind of events by involving with ISC, International Student Council, and helping the student feel like as Bushra has mentioned, feel like they are at home away from home, and also providing a deep insight about different kind of support that you are receiving with the help of your advisors, in regards to finding a job market and for your future career. I think that is really insightful, and we can discuss about it in the next section. So moving along with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Mary Weiser, Executive Director for Center for International Education at Southern Illinois University at Birdsville. Dr. Weiser, as a Senior International Officer at SIUE, could you please share the mission and vision of Center for International Education and challenges that you see that international students faces? I think you are on mute.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. What I would like to do is provide a very brief overview of SIUE and a little bit about our population of students at SIUE, and then how students are supported on our campus. And then I will pass it along to our student to talk about opportunities and challenges. So SIUE's mission is in part to develop professionals, scholars, and leaders who shape a changing world. So to that end, the Office of International Affairs believes strongly that everyone on campus should engage in positive and meaningful interactions with people from other cultures. Now, we do this by nurturing international education on campus, by supporting and promoting international student and scholar success, by enriching the campus through international collaboration, by advancing global perspectives in the academic community, and also by engaging with the local community. The SIUE student enrollment has been fairly consistent over the past 3 years, reflecting approximately 3% of our total population. For fall 2020, SIUE had around 362 international students who represented 56 countries. Our larger numbers of students came from China, India, Nigeria, Nepal, Turkey, and Vietnam. In addition to our 362 international students, we also provide oversight to around 200 students, additional students, engaging in optional practical training after graduation from SIUE. Of the international students in fall of 2020, of those 362, about 298 were returning students. So during COVID, many of these students stayed in the United States over the summer, and then they returned to SIUE in the fall. A few traveled to their home countries, but continued then at SIUE in online classes from their home countries in the fall. However, the numbers of new international students in fall 2020 fell significantly. And at our campus, it was about 43%. And this was due directly to COVID and travel restrictions. And this decrease is consistent throughout the nation. Our international students at SIUE are supported in many ways. First of all, the Office of International Affairs provides what I'd call a seamless transition programming from pre-arrival to retention. We want students to be successful and we want them to feel supported. Now, I realize that no one person or office can provide all the support for all students everywhere. So what we use is a system called a wraparound approach, where International Affairs takes the lead, but we're supported by other offices. We assess what students need, and then we organize and provide necessary assistance from multiple resources. And some examples would be our housing staff, our Cougar Cupboard, which is our on-campus food pantry, counseling services, the Bursar, health services, police. Now, I'd like to illustrate how we provide this support just with a couple of short scenarios. The first one is as follows. A student who was Hindu received a new car and was visited by a campus police officer investigating a report of what appeared to be a Nazi symbol on the car. The student explained that as a Hindu, this is a common religious symbol, and it's typical to paint this symbol on a new car and have it blessed for luck and prosperity. The symbol then disappears when it rains. So the police officer consulted with the Office of International Affairs and conveyed understanding and empathy. Ultimately, the campus police offered space for the student to park the car on campus at the police station until it rained, and then offered to provide a ride for the student to campus to make it to class on time. And I think that's really great collaboration. A second example, a student who was Muslim sought a place for daily prayer in a central location so she could arrive to classes on time. After working with International Affairs staff and a little bit of adaptation of space, the University Center staff provided designated space for prayer. The student's immigration advisor also facilitated a connection with our local Muslim community. So those are just two simple examples, and these things happen every day. There's a little variation on those themes. SIUE also provides multiple levels of mentoring. The first level is a community program, and it's our International Hospitality Program, and I'm really proud of the organization. It is 51 years old, and that's just awesome. It's comprised of community families who wish to enrich the lives of their families and the international students at SIUE. They assign students to a host family and offer social gatherings, cultural events, even welcome bags for our new students and household items. Another level is a student organization called Global Ambassadors Program. And this organization pairs some of our international students with domestic students. They meet each semester, they learn about each other's culture, they have fun, and they engage in different events. A third level of mentoring is a department-sponsored program sponsored by our Foreign Languages and Literature Department. And the program is called Tandem, and it pairs international students and domestic students studying a foreign language to practice English and learn about American culture. And finally, we have a vast array of international students associations, and I won't list all of them, but some of them include African Student Association, Chinese Student Association, Iranian Student Association, and of course our International Student Council that includes many different countries, all the different countries. So I leave with a final illustration of how these organizations impact our international students. A transfer student from India was experiencing homesickness and wanted to move out of on-campus housing. The housing staff referred the student to our International Student Program Advisor, who immediately reached out to the student. The student then was connected with the Indian Student Association, who assisted the student in meeting and developing relationships with other Indian students. Ultimately, the student did just fine. She adapted very well. So with that, I will turn it back to our moderator and then our student from SIUE. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Weiser, and those are really insightful about what your office does and what's the mission and what are the challenges that international student faces in everyday life. And as you have mentioned about that Nazi sign in the car from the Indian students, usually it's called swastik. It's a good luck before any kind of events. They usually put that swastik sign in front of the door, so the good luck comes to their home. So these are the minor examples that international student faces in everyday life, and as you have mentioned, not the like SIUE or the Center for International Education can provide the support, but not all the support is just supported by just one office. It is supported by throughout the whole system of SIU. So this is something that every department have to work together to make the international student feel like they are at home. So learning about more experience and learning about more challenges and opportunities of international students, I would like to move further and invite Liu Chuanping, Mr. Liu from SIUE, Southern Illinois University at Birchville, and he is a graduate student in mechanical engineering. Mr. Liu?
Yes, thank you. So hi everyone, it's my great honor to have you all here. So firstly, I want to thank you, Mr. Neil Penn's introductions and Dr. Weishar's presentations. And I would like to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Liu Chuanping, and I'm from China. I'm a graduate student at Mechanical Engineering Department from SIU Ellersville. Before coming to SIUE, I got my engineering degree in the mechanical engineering in France. So it would be my pleasure to represent international students from SIUE campus here. And after exchanging information with some international students, I have gathered some students' comments, including myself, on the international students' life here. So basically, I will address two aspects, which is about infrastructures and the humanistic care on the campus. For the hardware part, I think we have a lot of high comments on the school's facilities and the faculty teams. The education system is well equipped with the most advanced facilities, and the faculties are patient and available for international students' difficulties all the time. Another thing I want to highlight on the campus is the library. The library is fully equipped with books covering a broad variety of knowledges, and the easy access of such a resource helps a lot of students in their studies. The school apartment and campus are surrounded by a gorgeous and natural environment, which wins a lot of comments from students as well. Other than that, the gym and the free transportation from housing to school are also providing a great convenience for the international students here. Compared to the high common parts, there are also some expectations for schools' facilities from the students. I think the first thing is the parking service has been highly discussed among the international students. The poor convenience and the high price has been mentioned. For this issue, I have a personal suggestion that we can set up a gate barrier systems to control the parking lots and let people park where they want and pay how much they should. In cafeteria, since the majority of foods are American style, it seems more diverse choice of food are looked forward by the international students here. For the apartment, although the living area is surrounded by a great and quiet environment, the rent is high and the space is crowded for the students based on the calculations. For one apartment, a single room is rated roughly $800 per month and a shared room is rated roughly $600 for each student. That comes out to be $2,000 for each apartment each month. And compared to the housing fee, the stipend for graduate students at SIUE are relatively insufficient. Based on my experience, a 15% paid teaching assistant or a research assistant will get roughly $950 per month. And that is not quite enough to cover the life expense and the remaining fees of school enrollment, plus the health insurance and etc. And there's a clearly gap between the stipends at SIUE with the stipends at SIUC. So we wish to see some improvements and efforts in these issues for international students. For the humanistic part, I think the international office and advisors should be highly praised by their diligent and patient work to solve the international students' difficulties. Besides, the international faculties are participating in helping students to settle down. Those efforts really gave the international students a feel at home. Furthermore, the school always sends the prompt and repetitive communication letters to let students follow up with the school's announcement. I think that is really a good reactions from the school side. And the police station's actual reactions really helped a lot of international students out of quandary timely. For further expectations, I think I wish to promote the development of international communities, which will invite more domestic faculties and students to interact with international students. Since in recent decades, the world is changing so fast that it would be a better sense that domestic students can learn what is happening elsewhere in the world. In the country, their international students can have more local friends and can easily be integrated with local societies. With further resource from the domestic faculties, I believe more international students can dedicate their efforts in return to the societies which gave them the chance of educations. Another thing I want to share today is an activity called Culture Weeks, which I learned from my previous school in France. The Culture Week basically is designed to students who are coming from different regions, and that could be an Asian week, an African week, an American week, etc. And they will have a whole week to prepare for their performance, the cookings, the events from their cultures. Some other local students also can participate in the preparations as long as they are interested in the culture. So after seeing a lot of international students being graduated and successful in their continuous of their lives, I truly believe that international students have a great potential to make SIUE better recognized internationally. And I hope SIUE can keep doing a great job to support international students. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Liu, and thank you for sharing your challenges and also all those memories that you have experienced at SIUE, and those challenges that you are mentioning about having a cafeteria of diverse choices for international students, and that is something that need to be thought about from the admin point. Because international students, they come from a different background with a different choice of food, their own cultural food, and definitely if there is something that can relate, that are provided in the dining hall for international students, maybe once a week, having a international food, something like that, it would be a win-win situation from the both perspective. For the domestic student can try a international food, and where the international student will be happy about having their own cultural food. So moving furthermore, I would like to introduce Dr. Karen Brockett, and she is a Associate Dean for Graduate Medical Education Residency Affairs, and also a professor in the Department of Internal Medicine at SIU School of Medicine. Dr. Brockett.
Hi, thank you for having me here. I'm going to talk specifically about the role of international learners in our graduate medical education programs. Sometimes this is known as residency training. And so residency training, or GME, is the last step in the long road to becoming a physician after college, then medical school. And there are two pathways into residency training, or GME. You can go to an American medical school, or you can go to an international medical school. Now, not all folks who go to international medical schools are international students. About 40% of them are domestic students who have just gone overseas for their medical school, but about 60% of folks that go to international schools are foreign nationals. And that's the group that we would consider our international learners, and we call them international medical grads, IMGs for short. And I do, before I want to talk about some of the barriers, I want to talk a little bit about value added, because in GME, our learners sit at a very unique place. They're students, they're learning, but they're also providers. Residents are licensed physicians who are practicing medicine under supervision. So many of the things that we deal with have to do with workforce as in addition to education. And in the US, we are not training enough doctors to meet all the needs for our nation. We're not doing it now. In the future, the gap is expected to get wider. This is for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's not enough residency positions to meet all of our needs. It's a very expensive proposition, so most of that's related to money. And although this is changing, American medical schools are not graduating enough young physicians to fill our slots now. And historically, international medical grads have filled a really, really important need in our American workforce and in our training programs. The other thing is international grads historically have been much more likely to train in specialties that are not necessarily as popular, and to train in communities and practice in communities that are not considered really popular. And it pains me to say that until recently, Central Illinois was considered an area that was not super popular. So if you look at SIU and the nation, about 25% of our physician learners are international grads. And that's the same proportion in the workforce. So our healthcare needs would be in a bad place without our international grads. The other thing is, because getting into residency is so competitive in the US, our international grads are just an amazingly accomplished, talented group. A lot of our physicians in training have been practicing physicians in their specialties in other countries. And so they bring that experience as well as just a different set of experiences and worldview. So a lot of value added for our workforce as well as our educational programs. So at SIU, we've about 25% of our learners are IMGs. That represents about 90 individuals from year to year, most in Springfield, but we also have programs in Carbondale, Decatur, and Quincy. Our learners come from all over the world, but if you look at national trends, and we reflect that, over half of international medical grads come from India or Pakistan, the Philippines, Mexico, or the Dominican Republic. That's the largest pool. Do need to say a few things about barriers. A lot of the challenges have been identified very eloquently here. The earliest and biggest, I think, barrier for our international medical grads is just securing a position, because the process is so competitive. Like I said, the number of residency positions is relatively stable. The number of medical students is rising both domestically and abroad. A few years ago, the United States embarked on a concerted effort to increase the number of doctors in the country. We've succeeded in increasing the number of medical students by a large margin. The number of international medical schools has also kind of exploded. There's about 3,400 international medical schools around the world. And that's grown by 200 schools just in the last 5 or 6 years. So the competition is fierce. Last year in 2020, SIU offered 94 entry-level residency positions. That was in all of our 28 residency programs across the state. For those 94 positions, we had collectively 16,000 applicants. And most of those were IMG applicants. So the competition is very fierce. To put it in perspective, when people enter GME training, it's done through a very complicated computerized match process. Graduates of American medical schools are about 95% likely to match in this process. International grads have about a 61% chance of matching. So just getting in is a significant barrier. Another barrier comes at the end of residency, and this is a particular issue for our visaed residents. Immigration is a particular stress for our learners, and over the past few years, that's become multiplied a little bit. But one of the things that has been present for many, many years is there's a limitation on the number of visas that are available for our graduating physicians, which is really, really frustrating for us because it limits on how we can recruit our graduating IMG physicians into our faculty, but it also presents a lot of limitations and hurdles for our IMG grads when they go to get jobs after they finish. The other thing, again, these are barriers unique to our visaed residents, but there's just a huge amount of anxiety over status and changes in the immigration system. Not everyone in medical training follows the same path, and any deviation to the time you spend in training or what kind of rotations you do could have an impact on your visa status, even what specialty you pick. Since things have been tougher over the last year, I know some of our international grads have had to make, not last year, last 4 years, a lot of our international grads have had to make very difficult choices about whether to go to their home countries or not, because they might not get back. And if they have delay getting back, they could lose their slot in the training. So that's an anxiety there. A lot of the barriers have already been addressed. The language issue, I think, is also a unique barrier for our international physicians. When physicians come into medical training, there's a very high bar in terms of English proficiency before they can get certified. However, a lot of our international grads were trained in formal English. And, when we were more Eurocentric, we would call it the King's English. And learning how to use idiomatic English, talk with patients. And when people are sick, seeing their doctors, they're talking fast, they're jumping around, and learning how to communicate with patients and not just translate the English, but medical jargon into language that our patients can understand. It's a bit more challenging for our international grads who are speaking their second or third languages. The other thing that we are aware of that our international grads deal with is a certain amount, I hope it's small, but there is a certain amount of xenophobia sometimes in our clinics. And interestingly, when we've tracked feedback from our residents in terms of if they've had instances of discrimination or difficult interactions, most of the time it's with patients. From the feedback that I have gotten from learners, it tends to be more overt, for lack of a better word, when patients are working with international grads, either women who wear a hijab or male doctors of color with facial hair. I don't have any explanation for that, but I do know that's what gets reported to be most frequently. We haven't quite, the other area that kind of falls into that is patients and sometimes even administrators who are new to GME kind of make some assumptions about our international grads and make some assumptions that maybe they wouldn't be as good as an American trained doctor or things like that, and they just don't understand the value added. We've made a lot of headway in being able to address that piece. So I know my time is up, and I don't want to be ending on a negative note. We haven't really solved the problem of the xenophobia and especially addressing it in our clinics, but it has been a journey for our medical school, and I think I hope we're making some progress there. Thank you.
Brockett. Yeah, thank you, Brockett, for that insight of how the international students are being accepted. And when I see that 16,000 IMG application and having a 61% of matching for the international students, that is a great to see that applications and acceptance rate for international students. And also when you talked about having a racism within the patient and doctors, those relationships, I think that is something that might be international student might be facing those situations in the classroom too. We might address those in the upcoming panel, like upcoming questions. So moving along with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Faisal Ibrahim, who is in the 4th year residency in neurology, the class of 2021 from SIUE School of Medicine. Dr. Ibrahim. You are on mute, Dr. Ibrahim.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity to participate in this meeting. I will get started by introducing myself. My name is Faisal Ibrahim. I'm a PUI4 resident at SIU in neurology. And I moved here in 2017 to start my postgraduate training. I'm originally from Sudan, but I used to live in Qatar in the Middle East. And I would like to participate and talk about my personal experience and the challenges and the opportunities that I found here at SIU. So, I mean, I feel like the challenges to move starts even before.
Is it me or is it everybody having a sound issue? We are having some technical difficulty, Dr. Ibrahim. We are not able to hear you. Dr. Ibrahim, we are not able to hear you. Dr. Ibrahim, we are not able to hear you. Your sound got cut off.
Is there a way to text or email him?
Okay. Seems like Dr. Ibrahim is having some technical difficulties right now.
I'll text.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sorry about that. So I was mentioning that the problem started usually these problems and challenges starts even before moving to the US. It starts by preparing for the exam, scoring well in the exam, score high and compete with other national and other international graduates. The expenses of traveling even to the US to take some of the exams, and even the stress of, especially for someone like me, from certain countries. Like I'm holding a Sudanese passport, so even to get a visa, to come and to take the exams is really challenging. And that was especially in the last 4 years. Just when I tried to move in 2017, after I've done all the work and did all my interviews in the US, these like some political changes and in 2017, and then suddenly, the government decided to do this travel ban, and my passport was included just at the matching period when the programs were like choosing from the candidates who's gonna match from the candidates that they interviewed. And I personally received a lot of email from some of the program directors, as they said, like they really like me, but they don't know what to do, and they cannot like even put me on the matching list because of the travel ban at that time. So I'm very grateful to SIU that they still believed in the system, and they still ranked me high, and then I matched at SIU. One of the most painful also parts is just like staying away from the family. It's very painful. You'll move and you don't have any family support in the US. In addition to the cultural changes, you need time to adapt. It will take some time to adapt. So when I first moved, my first month was in July, and I remember walking on the streets in Springfield here in central Illinois, and then suddenly it was sunny out there, and then suddenly this heavy showers of rain hit me very bad, and everyone was carrying an umbrella, and I'm the only one who was not carrying an umbrella. So, but even like for these like simple details, after that I learned to look to the forecast. That was something new for me. I used to live in the desert. It's always hot and it's nice weather in winter. There is like rarely any sudden changes in weather. So this is one of the things that I learned. Even ordering like in a restaurant, that was challenging at some point, because like I can tell you like the portion of food here are humongous compared to the Middle East or Europe. So in Springfield here, like I learned never to order for a horseshoe. The pony shoe is enough. The horseshoe is like, it took me like 1 week to finish my horseshoe, because like the portion of the food was like very challenging. Driving was also an issue. It's my first time to see snow, and like to drive, even like sometimes I have to drive through a snowstorm if I have to. That was like also one of the challenges that I had. So to adapt to the system also was a challenge, especially that we practice in medicine. So we have to learn. It's not only about medicine and diagnosing patients and treating patients. It's about the system itself. You have to learn about how Medicare, Medicaid, the insurance system, how it works, how it's function, and even outside the work, you have to also to learn and adapt how financially you can deal with things. What is the credit score? How to build your credit score. Even like if you want to rent someplace, everyone is going to look at your credit score. You have to file your taxes. So the housing itself, when you move to a place that you've never been to, you need to learn like where to live, how to choose your house, which neighborhood. So a lot of changes. In addition to, you want to study and you want to prove yourself as someone, as an international graduate starting a program. You want to prove yourself. You want to work hard. You want to study hard. You want to show yourself that you deserve to be here. So it's very stressful. But the good thing is that will guide me to the other part, that the good thing, especially in the Midwest, and I feel especially at SIU, that here in the US, the people understand this. They understand what you are going through as an international graduate or student moving here. They know the challenges. and they support you. And that's what I really like about SIU. You know, the atmosphere, the friendly atmosphere, the support. There is always someone support. Everyone wants you to succeed. You know, in what you are doing. And the other part also is the amount of opportunities that you find here. I believe, like, I've been exposed to medical system in the Middle East, in Europe, in the UK, and I believe the system here, as when it comes to opportunities that you'll have as an international graduate, is the best. You can do whatever you want if you believe in yourself. You can achieve your goals. You can set goals. You can plan. You can achieve your goals, and you can dream big, regardless if you want to do academic, research or education, or even just like for practice. So there are like limitless number of opportunities that you rarely find anywhere else in the world. And then also what I really love is the diversity that present within the US, and at SIU. It's quite a diverse environment, and just love it. It's just like, it's not just enriching you just like academically and scientifically, but even culturally and morally, that you will learn a lot. It's just like traveling the whole world. You learn from other people, other cultures, just like melting in the same pot, and you learn from them, learn about their culture, and really learn that regardless where you're from, really humans, they are not that different. And we have a lot of things to share with each other. So I think the community here is amazing, in the US in general, but especially in the Midwest, and specifically at SIU. And, although being away from my family, although all the challenges that I was talking about, I really advise whoever wants to seek education or training here at SIU. I'm a big fan. I really advise them to pursue that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim, for providing the insight of all the challenges that international student faces before and after they arrive in the U.S. higher education system. As you have mentioned about, international students have to go through a lot of challenges, as Bushra has mentioned, and as Scarlett, Mr. Liu, and Dr. Ibrahim has mentioned about, like, they have to go through certain process to receive a visa, and then they have to get the flight, and they have to arrive at the airport, and getting a transportation from airport to the university, finding a housing, registering classes, going and making sure all the paperwork are done correctly, all the immigration works are completed. Those are a lot of challenges that international student faces before and after. And finding a classroom, that is also another challenges for international students, because usually international students comes a week before a class start date. So that is one of the other biggest challenges, that for within the 1 week period, they have to adjust with the environment and get ready for the class. So moving along with that, we have a few questions in the comment box, so which I'm going to share with everybody, and I'm going to let the administrator from each school talk about it. So what is the breakdown of your international students, undergrad versus master's and PhD student? What is the international student retention rate? So I would like Dr. Carver to go first. You are still on mute.
At SIU Carbondale, we have roughly equal students, undergraduate students to doctoral students. And then we have quite a few master students as well. So we're primarily our enrollment is at the graduate level. Okay. I think I actually commented on that in the comment section as well. And our retention rates are high for international students. What we've noticed is the importance of graduate assistantships, and that graduate assistantship commitment is very important to graduate students, because graduate students do have a choice even once they come to the US. If if international students perceive their graduate assistantships are in jeopardy in any way, they may leave to go to another institution that gives them a longer assistantship offer, as an example.
Thank you, Dr. Carver, for sharing that information. I would pass this same question to Dr. Weiser.
Well, I can say that our population has been changing. We right now have more graduate students than undergraduate students, but not in a real significant way. Our undergraduate student population has been growing over the past several years. So, and then I forgot the other part of the question. Can you help me?
What is the international student retention rate?
I don't have that in front of me, but it's very good. It's very strong. And not very many of our students leave campus without their degree.
Thank you, Dr. Weiser. And Dr. Burkhead?
Retention is a difficult concept when you're talking about residency training, because it's very, very unusual for folks to voluntarily quit residency. It usually happens in the face of either extreme family emergency or personal illness. Across the country, and SIU kind of is in line with that, probably 1% to 2% of residents just are exited out of training because they're unable to succeed in the programs. We don't track whether at SIU how that occurs for domestic students or international students. If I had to just think of the folks, the residents that had not succeeded in our programs, my guess would be it's either half and half, or maybe a little more US grads tend to struggle. But we don't track concrete data on those differences.
Thank you, Dr. Burkhead. And definitely it's hard to calculate the residency program too. And I'm kind of unfamiliar with the medical terms over there too. So, but thank you for sharing those information. And we have a few more comments. So what are some of the things SIU, or Center for International Education, is doing to help non-international students learn how to interact with international students and understand different cultures? So I believe Dr. Weiser has talked about it in her conversation about the different events or programs that has been done before. So I would go with Dr. Carver about the programs that has been done by CIE at SIUC.
Well, this is definitely something we are working on. 2 years ago, we started a really exciting program where every single freshman at SIU Carbondale comes to the Center for International Education for an international experience. And it's a big event. It's a week long. We do it in conjunction with International Education Week. And we had over 100 international students actually participated, volunteered for this event, sharing their culture, sharing their food, sharing their stories, sharing their knowledge with our domestic freshmen. And so we're very excited about that program, and we can't wait for COVID, of course, to be over, so we can bring all of those students, domestic students, back into the Center for International Education. We've also focused on staff. We've developed training in intercultural communications with staff members, student services, training for our advisors in the cultural differences, deciphering some of those differences that they do encounter, and that's been successful. And we hope to do that, certainly offer those types of workshops for faculty as well. And I think the university in general has really stepped that up, that kind of training, even in the last year.
Thank you, Dr. Carver, for sharing all this information. And definitely, having a faculty member or the staff member having some kind of workshop done, I think that helps a lot for international students to adjust with the environment at SIU. So moving forward, this is specific for the international students, Scarlett, Dr. Ibrahim, Busra, and Mr. Liu. So from the perspective of international student, what things do you feel are missing at SIU that would help you or other international students to feel supported and welcome on our campuses? So Mr. Liu, I would like you to start the conversation with this one.
Could you please just repeat that question? Like something missing here? Like you mean?
Okay, so from the perspective of an international student, what things do you feel are missing at SIU that would help you or other international students to feel supported and welcome on our campuses? So basically, the question is about like, what do you think is missing at SIU that will help, that or other international student knows that will help them, that they are being supported and welcome at SIU campuses?
I do get your problem because since I've been in France for 5 years and then I came to SIUE and I've been at SIUE until now 2.5 years. Personally, I don't feel too much like unwelcoming feelings here. But there's only one thing I want to address that because I think in American people are quite respecting each other's privacy. So that creates distance between people, not just between international students, between the local students. Because I've been in the teaching system of a couple of undergraduate courses, and I feel that students don't work together. I mean, the only way they work together because they want to get the answers together, and they just, it's not the interaction between students should not lie on the looking for the answers of questions. I think I wish to see the students live with more interactions between the different students, not just international students. I want that kind of interaction to be more frequent here. And I think that will not just make international students feel welcome, but that all other students feel welcome on the campus. Yes. So I pretty much think that the social distance right now, it's like, it's really restrict, but when things goes over, I think it would be better that we have more activities on the campus to let students to know each other. Yeah.
Can I also add some to that question?
Yeah, go ahead, Scarlett.
So it is my understanding that this question was made from a prospective international student.
So it's like from your perspective, from the perspective of international students, as you being an international student.
So I'm going to answer, but backwards. I would like to talk about what SIU has, not what it's lacking. So there's a big community of international students. Seek out, it's good to seek out for those international students. Like myself, whenever I encounter myself in a new environment, I look for people like me and ask them questions. And for instance, if the Center for International Education hosts activities, go to those activities, meet people, and just be part of the community. And you'll feel welcome, and you'll see you have a place anywhere you go.
Thank you, Scarlett. And I will move on with Busra.
Yes, Dr. Newpani. I think the system in place, the core is good, but I would even recommend to further expand on what we have. I think the Center for International Education does a really good job at what it what it does, but it would be nice to even have that sense of international recognition expanded even to other scientific departments at the university. I am very close to the SIUE now, and from what I understood, that even at the other campuses, the international figure is the same as here, which is very good. But it would be even more nice to see some added engagement in my case, in the engineering department, not just being there for the for your courses and then going away. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Bushra. And Dr. Ibrahim?
Well, I think they're really like doing a great job at SIU, when it comes to communication and taking care of international students and graduates. I would love, usually they communicate even before you move, and they will supply with the information about, about the city and the area and what you can do, where you can live. I would just suggest that we have to see more of that, because it's really challenging when you initially move. You need like more of this information. Other thing also, I suggest also if it will be easier, when it comes to the visa section, and if you want to talk to like a immigration attorney or something like that, if it will be easier if you have an access, to people at immigration when it comes to visa, especially if you want to like travel and come back, and other issues. That's something that I would love to see an easy access.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. Those are really wonderful insights from Scarlett, Bushra, Mr. Liu, and Dr. Ibrahim. And when you all were talking about, having, like as Mr. Liu has mentioned about the gap between the international student and domestic students, there shouldn't be any gap between international student and domestic students. They having sharing, like meeting in every places, and I think almost all the campuses all the international office are providing some kind of or organizing some kind of events, which helps to remove the gap between the international students and domestic students. But with these COVID-19 challenges, the challenges are increasing for international students too, and also for the international office to organize such events. And as Scarlett has mentioned about meeting and talking with the students, that helps a lot for any international students. If any international students want to know something, just go ahead and talk to somebody or ask somebody, or go to international office or any departments if you need any help. There are resources that you can utilize, as Scarlett had mentioned. And as Ibrahim has mentioned, access to the immigration, definitely all the campuses, I believe all the campuses has an immigration office that helps regarding the immigration processes. So most probably the international office is going to answer those questions. A comment for Dr. Burkhead. So assumptions you are alluding to are not in your field only. As a non-traditional student with professional background on some of the problem basing the developing nations, some faculty do not validate lived experiences. It is existing to be in such protracted conversations. How can SIU ensure that an environment of exchange of ideas on global issues like HIV/AIDS is healthy? Dr.
Yeah,
Burkhead?
that's a magnificent question. I don't know that I can speak to the second piece, just because our focus on training our residency physicians does not have a really strong global focus, and so it's not something that we do on a regular basis. But I do want to talk about the move towards valuing lived experiences. This is actually something that academic medicine has been trying to inch toward for a number of years, not just for our international learners, but to increase the number of underrepresented in medicine folks among our American students. When you look at recruitment into GME programs that takes a couple of forms. One is really robust pipeline programs, and the other one is helping programs move away from a reliance on test scores and the particular medical school where you came from, making assumptions that only these medical students are good enough to send residents to us. We call that holistic interviewing. It's been a challenge for programs because we're used to using test scores. And if you look at the volume of applicants that we get, looking at each person as an individual with their lived experiences is no small feat. But it's something that we're really working toward at SIU and across the nation.
Thank you, Dr. Burkett. And I have another comment for the administrator here. The University of Melbourne has approximately 50,000 students. 20,000 are international students. Is the panel researching and discussing how and why they can enroll so many international students? So I would let Dr. Weiser to answer this question first.
Well, that's a really difficult question. I'm not familiar with the system there, so it's going to be hard for me to answer that question. But I really believe that students will continue to come to the United States, and maybe our students can verify this, because we provide a really exceptional high-level education, not only at SIU, but across the United States. I mean, it's highly valued all over the world. Now, I believe that our border issues have cost us all kinds of problems, our bans, our immigration issues, and then layered on top of that COVID. But I really believe that the quality of the education that students receive in the United States is second to none. Now, that doesn't really address the Australia question. So I don't know if Andrew can shed light on that.
Hey, Dr. Carver.
Certainly it is part of Australia's national strategy. Recruiting international students, extremely important for their economy. Now at SIU, 25% of our graduate enrollment is typically international. 10%, when we look at on-campus undergraduate students, we're roughly consistently 8 or 10% there. So we don't reach that 40% of Melbourne, certainly, but it is an important component of our enrollment. There are many factors, and it resonated, the border issues, the travel bans, that has taken a toll that, led to a few years ago a decline in international students beginning here in the United States. So Australia is very, very competitive. Language scores are an issue. If you look at the UK, if you look at Australia, their language requirements for international students are generally, the English proficiency they expect is generally lower. So that's definitely a lesson we can learn here in the States. And I'd also like to comment, if I could, on the last question, and I'm really intrigued. The person writing in mentions global issues like HIV/AIDS. And Bushra made a comment how, wouldn't it be nice if the Center for International Education on both campuses reached out more in academics, and tackling those global issues is really one way we could do that. And it's one way that SIU, even as a system, can look at some of these grand challenges we have globally. And can we put teams together? Can we get students working in the same direction? I'm sure Bushra can think of some amazing engineering, civil engineering, and infrastructure projects that could really change the world if our students applied themselves to solve some of those problems. So that's a bit of a challenge to us, I think, and the acknowledgement that global issues could really bring what we do in our Centers for International Education into academics. And also at SIU, we are starting a strategic plan for internationalization of the campus. And right now it's involving over 30 faculty members are directly involved, looking at all aspects of internationalization of the campus. How we welcome scholars, how we recruit students, how we develop more lasting and robust global partnerships. How do we deliver more international content and more international learning in the classroom? So that's an exciting project that's starting here at SIU Carbondale, and it'll last for another year, that process.
Thank you, Dr. Carver, for sharing the wonderful insight that is going under SIUC about the internationalization within the campus. We're involving all the faculty members being a part of some good things that is coming up that can help the international student and help in internationalization process. So moving forward, this is a question for the administrator. And so with this current situation right now in COVID-19, there are a lot of other challenges that the international students are facing. And what are some of the actions that the campuses have taken during the pandemic, specifically to support our international students? So I would let Dr. Carver answer this question first.
This is a big problem, and we really need to take a moment, I think, to recognize, all the families who are trying to support their students who are studying here in the SIU system. These are unprecedented financial difficulties, unprecedented health difficulties. And, we have to realize that international students, they might not just be receiving support from their mother or their father. They might be receiving support from an extended family who's investing in a student to study in the States, to get that gold standard education. We are doing all we can here. One concrete thing we have done is we've shifted how we award scholarships. We're saving back more and more money for emergency situations that arise due to COVID. That's one concrete thing we're doing. We're hosting, well, when the news first broke, we immediately started hosting workshops. What is COVID? What can we expect? How are the students feeling about it? What's happening in other countries? And we've continued that. I think our next session is next month, where we'll be bringing in the counseling professional staff here at SIU to have a session so students can discuss how the pandemic is affecting them. So that type of constant engagement. We have to spend a lot of time. I write a lot of letters to embassies who their consular offices might be closed or only operating on an emergency level. So I think sometimes it has an impact, other times it doesn't, but we're in more and more contact with our State Department colleagues on really how important these students are to SIU. Those are just a few things.
Thank you, Dr. Carver, for sharing the actions that the campus, SIUC campus, has taken during the pandemic for international students. And I think it's really great to have a session like counseling session or any health department coming to the university and talking about the psychological effect that international student goes through during this COVID-19 situation. I think that's really great. So I will move on with Dr. Weisser about the same question.
Right. Well, I completely concur with Dr. Carver on the impact financially on students has been just unnerving. And the unfortunate event is that our federal government is providing some money for domestic students. Well, they should, I think, but it's not available to our international students, the CARES Act funding. So one heartbreaking situation in the summer was that there were some of our international students who didn't have enough money to stay in the United States over the summer, but they weren't able to return to their home countries because of lack of flights, border restrictions, quarantine requirements, all of that. So a few students were really in tough situations, and it was just very difficult. So we rallied the support around students, and I hope we met most needs. We promoted and recommended students for emergency funding through several different sources. First of all, our SIUE Foundation raised quite a lot of money that was given out to just designated for international students, and I think that really helped. We nominated a small group of students for outside emergency funds through the Institute for International Education, IIE, and that's the organization that oversees Fulbright, and they do a lot of good work. Well, we had some success. A few students got some nice funding from them. And then internally in our office, we oversee some foundational scholarships designated just for international students. And we were quickly able to turn around and provide some small grants and funds for students to help tide them over. Other things, our Vice Chancellor for Administration gathered gift cards from the community, and those were distributed through our office to students. We worked with our Cougar Cupboard, the food pantry, to distribute food. And then finally, our international hospitality program provided everybody with gift cards like to Walmart, that kind of thing. Now, I know that sounds small, but when you put all those together, I do think it made an impact, and it made a difference in some students staying and being able to stay. I mean, they didn't really have any choice. And then another issue of COVID, I think, has been just a real tangled sort of mess, if you will, are the changing rules on immigration and the restrictions on travel. And it just changed every day for a while. And it was hard to keep up with what was going on. So I could understand why international students would be confused. And what's the latest rule, so to speak. So we made a concerted effort to provide clear and prompt and consistent communication with international students. And one of the issues was how to maintain their status. There were changing rules on what's a full course load, and can I take a face-to-face class, or can I take all online classes? Well, that messaging was very consistent, clear, and constant from our office. And then we made sure that everybody in the office, not only the immigration advisors, but especially them, but everybody was available. And so when a student needed something, the front door wasn't always physically open, but we were always open. And students were able to get an answer in a really timely manner. So those are just a couple of issues, the changes in immigration, the changing, and then financial issues that I think have been very challenging from my point of view.
Yeah, thank you, Dr.
And Mary, I'm not sure if this happened on your campus, but we had a lot of graduate students who were offered graduate assistantships that could not make it to campus because of the embassy closures. Yes. And I really have to thank our upper administrators. We arranged that anyone who had been offered an assistantship could go ahead and attend remotely with their tuition remission. We couldn't offer them their stipend, but we did offer the tuition remission so that they could at least begin their studies, and that was really helpful too.
In some of our cases, our students were allowed to defer their assistantship even, and that really helped them out because they knew they could come, but just not right because the embassy wasn't open. You know, it was just impossible.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Weiser. And I think those are really good actions that has been taken by SIU system, you know, and SIUE and SIUC, you know, with the funding wise, with the providing counseling sessions, and also regarding the informing students regarding all the immigrations, how many classes they need to register, how many face-to-face and those classes, and also, as Dr. Carver has mentioned about the tuition remission, like tuition waiver for the international students who have been admitted at the university but are not able to attend due to the COVID-19 or due to the embassy closure or some other situation. So I would like to move on with Dr. Brookhead. If you have any, you know, if there are any actions that the campuses have taken during the pandemic for international students.
Yeah, our actions actually have been fairly concrete and not limited to international students. I mean, the basic thing has been keeping our learners safe, making sure that all of our learners have got the appropriate safety gear and PPE. One thing that we were able to do, because our residents are actually employed by one of 5 hospitals in our system, and so all of their benefits and things are through them, and we were able to get an extra 2 weeks of sick time because we had a number of residents who either were unwell or were on quarantine because of COVID. And that's an issue for all of our learners, but particularly for our international learners on visas, because losing some time in training can have a significant impact. The other thing that we did, which I think echoes Dr. Weishar's, is just our visa training liaison person in our office was just in constant contact with the body that holds our residents' visas and has all the updated information. So we at least were able to get a flow of information for our visa learners.
Thank you, Dr. Brookhead. And it seems like we are 8 minutes, we are almost like 15 minutes away from our time zone right now. And just want to give everybody an opportunity to just make a closing remarks kind of thing. And then we will move on with our president, Dr. Dan Mahoney. So I would like to start with Dr. Carver, if you can provide a closing remark.
Thank you, Ramesh, and thank you everyone for joining, and some great questions from the participants. You know, I think this has been a great opportunity to learn about the challenges that international students have, and as U.S. folks, we can all be a little more empathetic now when we realize the complexities that are involved, not only in getting a student here on our campuses, but to retain students and help them finish their program. So I'm just delighted to be here tonight, delighted with the conversation, and we'll keep working hard to serve our international students.
Thank you, Dr. Carver. Dr. Weiser?
Well, I'd just like to say that I really believe that excellent relationships and collaboration on our campus between not only international affairs, but our administrators and our student affairs colleagues and all of the academic units is really what makes a difference. And I just firmly believe in the idea of a wraparound approach, that if somebody needs something, somebody needs to take the lead, and then we wrap those services around that student and try to support them in the way that we can. But I too have appreciated the insight from our students and my other colleagues that I don't get to see very often. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weiser. Dr. Brookhead?
No comments, but I just want to thank our international students and faculty who shared their personal stories. That was really powerful. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brookhead. Scarlett?
Thank you so much for this opportunity to share my experiences and other students' experiences. And also I would like to take a moment to, well, like Dr. Carver said, one of the biggest international events that happen each year on spring is the International Festival. And the theme for this year that we have chosen is celebrating diversity together and stronger. And I think it's a perfect slogan, and we have learned a lot during the last few years, and I think the future is bright. Thank you.
Thank you, Scarlett. Bushra?
Yes, I just want to express my gratitude. I'm really honored to be here today. And it helps. It's really nice getting things out of your chest. I hope they were of some use. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bushra. Mr. Liu?
Well, I'd like to thank you all for letting me to talk about the international affairs here and let the international students' voice heard. So basically, today's my presentations are not just about myself. So I just gathered a lot of information from the other international students, and I want their information get transferred to this talk. And I always believe that SIUE can keep supporting the excellent international students and give them an opportunity to be successful in their continuous life. Yeah, and also I want to express again my thanks to the international office and international advisors that worked for the international students at SIUE campus, because they are really, really kind, and they did a lot of great job to help the international students with their, just like Dr. Weishar said, that there's a lot of difficulty with the border issues and something like that, and they really did a great job to help them out and to get the most possible resource for the students. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. And Dr. Ibrahim?
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed this meeting, and I would like at the end just to thank all the SIU staff for their support and the hard work that they are doing to assist everyone, domestic and international, postgraduate and students. And I really want just to encourage everyone who wants to pursue his further education or training here at SIU. I want to encourage them, please do so.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. And I would like to thank all the participants and panelists for sharing your views and experience. Those are just the minor challenges and opportunities that we have talked within this panel, but there are a lot of other areas that we haven't covered. Definitely, we don't have enough time right now, but now it's my pleasure to introduce System President, Dr. Dan Mohani, for closing thoughts about the panel.
Thank you, Dr. Neopani, and thank you for moderating the discussion today. I want to say just one thing real quick. If you came on later, when we started, Dr. McNeese talked about that if you're new to the SIU System YouTube channel, I ask you now to click the red subscribe button and then hit the notification bell icon so you'll be notified of future videos that we have on the SIU YouTube channel. So say that, but again, thank you to you for moderating it. Thank you to our panelists, our staff, who not only, I think, gave us a lot of insight into what we're doing here at SIU, but thank you for the work that you do for our international students. It's quite clear from their comments, they appreciate all the work you do for them. And then it was very reassuring to hear some of their comments about it. Particularly want to thank the students. Thank the students for being part of the panel, but simply for being here. I always talk about, I went to college a 7-hour drive away from home, and I thought I was adventurous. I didn't go to another country. I didn't go, for some of you, halfway around the world. And I know that it takes a lot, and there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that, a lot of challenges that you face, much of which you talked about today. But I think, as Karen talked about, you create value added for us, and you create a richer educational environment for us. And we really couldn't do what we want to do without your presence here. So I do want to say that. I will say I'm a strange person to be talking about international education. I must admit, until I was past 30 years old, I had never left the United States. I had almost no contact with anybody from any other country, with a brief experience in high school. So unlike Dr. Carver, who did all these things in college, I didn't do study abroad. I didn't have international friends. I didn't have any of those things. Then in my 30s and 40s, I had the opportunity to do a lot of things. I hosted a visiting scholar from Japan. I mentored international doctoral students. I traveled the world for conferences, to give speeches, to create study abroad programs, to recruit international students. I I even taught in Athens, Greece for a number of years, about a month a year, I was over there teaching. And I found, my gosh, what I missed out on. The rich experiences that I had, it forever changed me in ways that's really hard to put into words. And so I went from somebody who knew nothing to someone who was an advocate. And I will admit, I made mistakes along the way. I did not always understand how to deal with cultural differences, but each time I made a mistake, someone taught me something that I learned from. And I became, I think, a better person, and it was better for me to have gone through those experiences, even if it was tough at times to make those mistakes. But then again, started to advocate for it more, started to work on again setting up those study abroad experiences, finding more ways to recruit international students. And as we approach the conversation today, I just was thinking a lot about the challenges that we're facing, and some of which we've talked about here. While there was a period of time where I felt like we were growing rapidly when it came to recruiting international students, one of my previous institutions, we went in, I think, 3 years from 800 to 3,200 international students. This was a huge growth period, and then we went in the other direction over the last several years. And this year particularly, we talked about some of those numbers. The national number for new international students was down 43% this year. So a huge drop off. Our hope is certainly at SIU is that we reverse that trend over the next couple of years and we start to pick up on some of the things. And clearly, as someone brought up with the University of Melbourne, there's other countries and other universities around the world who have become much more active in recruiting international students. So we need to do all the things we talked about today to help support our international students coming here. We understand that it's challenging and it's difficult, and the more we can do that. And then when they get there, I think we talked a lot tonight about helping with cultural differences, both in working with faculty and staff like myself, and then working with the students, help kind of bridge that gap. And I think that that's helpful. And even thinking about little things. Mr. Liu brought up the food. That was an issue for me at my previous institution. We went from, again, about probably 300 Chinese students to 2,000 in about a 2-year period, but we didn't change in our food options in our cafeteria nor within our local community. And that's asking a lot of someone to completely change how they eat overnight. And we looked at that and we did some things differently from that point forward. So I think it's even the little things that we continually try to do to help support our international students. But I think if we do all of those things, there's opportunities. We've talked about a few of those today. I always say I would love to see every student study abroad. That's my dream. I would love to see every student have that experience, but I know that's not practical. But what we can do is by bringing international students, international faculty here, we actually give the students that opportunity to interact with people from other countries. But we have to be intentional about that. And I think, Andrew talked about that, of trying to find ways to make sure that every student, even if they never leave our campuses, has some kind of international experience. And again, that's why I thank our international students for being here, because you help us do that. You help make our educational experience richer. And hopefully we make your lives richer too, and provide you a learning environment that helps you move forward in what you want to do. And I also thought, again, go back to that notion of value added. It's the talent that we're able to bring from around the world to our campuses that also makes us a richer place. I look at my tenure file and my promotion to full professor. If it wasn't for those international doctoral students and those international scholars I hosted, I don't think I would have made it to full professor when I did. They were a big part of my own development as a scholar. And I appreciate that. And I think we as a country see lots of opportunities to add value by bringing international students here and enriching not just our university environment, but our country. So again, thank you for all of you who joined us today. And thank you again to our panelists for a very great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mani. And with this, I think we'd like to end the session. Thank you everybody for joining the event, the panel, and enjoy. I think the weather is going to be good in Southern Illinois, so I hope everybody enjoys the weather. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, my friends. I appreciate you. I'm going to leave too.